Hey everybody, in today's video we're talking about Photoshop and editing your landscape images. I'm going to be showing you guys a super basic little tutorial on how to edit your images in Photoshop. There's a few different things that I'm using on almost every image, and I'm going to show you guys what those things are in today's video on this beautiful image of the Palouse. So I'm really excited for this one. Let's go ahead and make it quick. I'm not going to talk too much longer. Let's go ahead and jump right in there. What I want to do when I open this image into Photoshop is to actually open it as a smart object. So to do that, we are going to go up to Photo, we're going to go down to Edit In, and we're going to do Open as a Smart Object in Photoshop. We're going to let that load out, and then this is going to load as a smart object into Photoshop. Now, the main reason why I want this as a smart object is because it's going to allow me to put a few layers on that I will then be able to go back and edit later, making it non-destructive. So the first thing that I want to do is go up to Filter and go down to Camera Raw Filter. Now, this is going to give us just the basic settings that you would have in Lightroom to allow us to adjust a few sliders here and there. So I'm going to bring down the highlights, maybe bring up the shadows, bring up the whites a little bit. Just making some basic adjustments here. I'm going to add a touch of contrast, but not too much. We'll add a little bit of texture. We'll add a little bit of clarity. And that's about all that I want to do here. Everything else I can do a little bit better with a different tool in Photoshop. So I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. But because we've made that a smart object, now we have this smart layer here. And we could double click on Camera Raw Filter to reload this and change the settings. So the first thing that I want to do is just bring open a basic curves layer. I'm going to go down here to this circle with a slash through it, which gives us all of our adjustment layers. This is pretty much where majority of the things I'm using in Photoshop live. So I'm going to open curves. And now I'm just going to make a simple S curve. You can see that on this curves layer, I have a couple other YouTube videos covering how to use the curves layer, so I'm not going to cover it too much, but this is basically just the layout of pixels in the image. I'm going to create a simple S curve here to add some contrast to the scene. And if I felt like it was too much, I can go back, pull things down, make some adjustments. And that's looking pretty good. Now, I also want to go ahead and grab a color balance layer, which I can find right here. And the reason is because I feel like this image is too blue. It should be a little bit more yellow. So to adjust color balance, I like to come up here and I like to use my arrow key because this does work in pretty fast. So you can see right about there looks good. Maybe I'll add some magentas. I just am trying to balance the image to where I feel it is a little bit realistic. And now you can see I've kind of gotten rid of that ugly blue tone there. And now we're working with more of a realistic looking image. So that's looking really nice to me. We can also go down here and grab a Hue Saturation layer. And we can increase the saturation to really pop the image. So you can see that I've made 3 really simple adjustments to make this image already start looking really, really, really nice. So I'm really liking where this is going. So I want to go ahead and make a little adjustment to the brightest spots in the image, and I'm going to do that using a curves layer. So I'm going to go down here and open up another curves. And now I want to make a better selection, so I'm just selecting these bright spots in the image. And the way that I'm going to do that would be to go up to select and down to color range. And then you can see I have selected the highlights here, and I've adjusted the fuzziness and the range to make a good selection of those bright spots in the image. This is really similar to using a luminosity mask. So if you've used luminosity masking, go ahead and just do that. But I'm going to go ahead and load this out now. You can see that that selection is getting applied to the curves layer. I'm not going to talk a lot about layer masks, but basically all you need to know is that on my layer mask here, anything that's white is being selected, anything that's black is not, and anything in between is being partially selected. So anything that I do to this curves layer is going to affect what's in white, but not what's in black, which makes Photoshop really, really powerful. You can see when I pop this here, it starts to look really nice here. So let's go somewhere about in there. Looks good to me. And that is looking really good. So you can see this is kind of what makes Photoshop super, super powerful. We've got these nice 3 layers here. These curves, color balance, and hue saturation are the 3 that I use all the time on image editing. And then when you get a little bit more advanced, you can combine it with layer masks like I've done with this curves layer here, which is really going to help bring your images to the next level. It's really what makes Photoshop super, super powerful. So the other thing that you can do here So another thing that makes Photoshop really powerful is the ability to apply special effects. One of my favorites is the Orton effect. I have a whole video on how to make the Orton effect, but I'm going to show you guys how to do it on just this photo in particular. So the way that I'm going to do it is Command Alt Option Shift and E. That is going to create a new layer. On PC, that would be Control instead of Command. All that does is merge all visible into one layer, which I am aware makes it destructive editing now because we would have to delete this layer to go back and adjust the other ones. That's totally fine. I want to show you guys how to make this layer. So the way that we're going to do that is we are actually going to go up to Filter. We're going to go down to Blur, and we're going to go over to Gaussian Blur. We're going to go about 50 pixels, and we're going to hit OK. Now we're going to go down to soft light blend mode. And the last thing that we are going to do is actually just grab this layer mask here that we've made. I'll go ahead and make another one, and I'll show you how to make another one. Go up to select color range, and we just want to select a good selection of the highlights again. This time we can be a little bit more selective. Let's go about right there. So I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to hit the layer mask button to let that load out as a layer mask. Now, the nice thing about this Orton effect is that it basically just increases the glow in your image. This isn't the best image to use an Orton effect on, but it does still look pretty nice. You can try playing with a couple different blend modes. Sometimes I go overlay, sometimes I go soft light. So you can see that kind of really just smooths things out, makes it look really nice. The Orton effect works a lot better when you've got some light bleeding into the scene, which I don't quite have here, but I do still like using it to kind of soften things out on an image like this. So that's looking really good. Now, the other thing that I really like to do is to add a touch of pop to my image. Again, I'm going to go Command, Alt, Option, Shift, and E. Now that I have this layer, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to go to Filter. I'm going to go down to Sharpen and I'm going to go to Unsharp Mask. Now this is a way I like to add a little bit of pop. And what I do here is I do the amount at 50%, the radius at 40 pixels, and the threshold at 0. I'm going to hit OK here and let that load out. You can see the image already is looking quite, I guess crunchy is the word that I would use. So I would go here and adjust the opacity down a little bit, somewhere about in there. And I can even hit Command plus to zoom in on the image. And I'm feeling like that is looking really nice. I'm going to go down about 29%. So that looks pretty great. Now, the last thing that I want to do here in Photoshop is just make a couple adjustments at the end of the image. And I want to do that using that camera raw filter again. So I'm going to go Command, Alt, Option, Shift, and E. And I'm going to go back up here to Filter. I'm going to go down to Camera Raw. And this is just a really nice way to end editing every image. Of course, you could go do this in Lightroom if you wanted, but I like to get it all done in one piece of software here, which is why I'm using Photoshop. So I'm going to actually go down and I'm going to go to Effects. I'm going to add a little vignette on here, which is just going to help bring the image home. Kind of, you can see when I toggle this, it really helps keep the viewer's eye in the middle of the frame. So that's looking pretty good. You can adjust a few of these if you want. I might add a little bit more feather. And I'm going to slide maybe the highlights bar, and it's not doing a whole lot because we don't have bright highlights. So we're going to leave it as is. So we're going to hit OK and let that load out. Now, the really nice thing about Photoshop is that if you want to adjust this, it's so easy to do that. You can see when I toggle this, I don't really want it to darken these brights here on the right side of the frame. All that I need to do is click this button to get a layer mask, come over here to my brush tool. I'm going to get a black brush, and we are just going to go in. We're going to increase the size of the brush a little bit. And you can actually use the opening and closing bracket diagonal to the delete key to change the size of your brush. And I'm at 100% opacity. Let's go down to 40%. Let's just click a few times through here. So I can adjust the vignette. I'm going to hit Command Z if I do something I don't like, but I just kind of want to take it off these bright spots on the image. So really powerful how easy this is to do to your photo. And that is the reason why I love Photoshop. Somewhere about in there looks good. So you can see in a matter of, this has probably been less than 10 minutes, we've taken our photo from here all the way to here. Super easy, super simple. Just really, really nice. I love Photoshop for how easy it is to use. You can see that I really utilize curves, color balance, and hue saturation to make things happen. Then I went up here and I did a Orton effect. And if you want to title your layers to keep it organized, just double click where it says the layer name. And then we did a sharpen, and then we did a vignette. So I'm just gonna call that Vin. So that looks really nice. So that's gonna do it for this tutorial on basic editing in Photoshop. Now I know there is many more things you can do with Photoshop, but this was just meant to be a little basic tutorial showing you a few of the most simple and useful techniques that I'm using on all my images. Really hope that was helpful for you guys. If you're a Lightroom user looking to jump into Photoshop for the first time, this is a great place to start and use these tools to get started. Using the software over time, eventually you are going to learn a few things here and there, and you're going to learn slowly how to fully utilize the software. Really hope this video was helpful for you guys. If it was, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe and comment if you guys have any questions or comments about this video. I want to thank you guys so much for checking out this week's video. I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.